If you've been taught science disproves Christianity, you've been lied to, and I'm about to show you why. Today we're tackling one of the biggest misconceptions about Christianity, and honestly, one of those common arguments used against it. You've probably heard this before. Christianity is anti-science, or religion contradicts science, or Christians just ignore evidence and rely on blind faith. It's often thrown out like a mic drop moment, sometimes worded as, I'm for reason, you're against reason, or I believe in science, you believe in God and religion. And since science is logical and provable, it's obviously more correct. But here's the thing. That's just not true. It's not how it works. And in this video, I'm going to break down that whole idea that Christianity and science are incompatible is not only wrong, but actually backwards. In fact, atheism often requires more faith than Christianity does. Let's get into it. Point 1. Christians actually started science. Let's start with a historical fact that's not taught in most public schools. The Christians were the ones who actually started modern science. One of the key figures was Thomas Aquinas, a medieval Catholic theologian who lived in the 1200s. He wrote the Summa Theologica, which laid the groundwork for rational inquiry and the idea that the universe is orderly and knowable, because it was created by an orderly God. His writings influenced generations of Protestant and Catholic thinkers and helped spark the scientific revolution. And it wasn't just Aquinas. The early scientists, most of whom were devout Christians, believed that studying nature was a way to understand God's creation. They didn't see science and faith as enemies. They saw them as partners. The second reason Christianity is compatible with and encouraging science is that most great scientists believed in God, or were even devout Christians. Let's talk about the scientists themselves. People like Isaac Newton, Max Planck, Galileo, and even many Nobel Prize winners believed in God. Max Planck once said, there can never be any opposition between religion and science. One complements the other. Newton said, atheism is so senseless. Johannes Kepler said, science is thinking God's thoughts after him. Even Galileo said the laws of nature are written by God in the language of mathematics. These weren't fringe thinkers. These were the giants of science, and they did not see any contradiction between faith and their research. Even today, nearly 2/3 of Nobel Prize winners in science have believed in God. That's 64%. So when people say religion is incompatible with science, I don't know what to tell you, except that the people winning the highest awards in science clearly don't think so. Now I'm going to address some atheist objections to religion and how scientists supposedly disproved it. An underlying claim about the perceived religion-science debate is that science has somehow disproved God. But that's not how science works. Science is based on empirical observation. It studies the natural world. It can tell us how things work, but it can't tell us why they exist or what their ultimate purpose is. It can't test for the supernatural. So by definition, science can't disprove God. But wouldn't this disprove scientific arguments for God? While science shows us the natural world, it can still show us evidence that points toward God. In other words, science cannot directly disprove God, but it can show evidence that God has left in the world. Take the teleological argument, for example, the argument that the universe shows signs of design. Science can reveal patterns, fine-tuning, and complexity that suggest a designer, but it can't rule out the existence of that designer. Another common misconception is that evolution somehow disproves God, but that's not really accurate. At best, evolution explains how organisms change over time. It doesn't really explain how life began in the first place. It doesn't even explain how the universe came into existence. These are questions that go beyond biology and into philosophy and theology. In fact, more scientists study the origin of life, the more they realize how complex and improbable it is. The science of abiogenesis, life from non-life, has not solved the problem. It's just shown us how massive the problem truly is. Another misconception is that Christians rely only on faith, while atheists rely on the evidence. But here's the truth. Every worldview is a mix of faith and evidence. The real question is, which worldview takes the least blind faith and offers the most solid evidence? Think about it. Does it take more faith to believe that someone created something out of nothing, or that no one created something out of nothing? Atheism requires faith in random chance, in morality without a moral lawgiver, in logic without a source of reason, and in a universe that came from nowhere for no reason. Christianity, on the other hand, says that there's a creator, a moral standard, and a purpose behind it all. That's not blind faith, that's reasonable belief based on evidence and logic. So as we can see, it's not Christians who rely on faith too much, it's atheists. The fourth misconception is that arguments for God are just God of the gaps, meaning we use God to explain what science hasn't figured out yet. And as science can explain more, God becomes more irrelevant. But that's not what we're doing. We're not saying science can't explain this, so God must have done it. Science can explain many things, but God can explain everything. Science explains the how, and God explains the why. Science is amazing. It helps us understand the mechanics of the universe, but it does not answer the deeper questions, like why the universe exists, why it's orderly, or why we even care about truth and meaning. That's where God comes in. So to wrap this up, Christianity isn't anti-science. It's actually the foundation of science. The pioneers of science were Christians. Many of the greatest scientists believed in God, and science itself points toward a creator, not away from one. Our mission is to help you know and follow Jesus with apologetics, Bible study, and Christian living content. If you want to support us in that mission, you can like and subscribe and all, and that helps. But what helps us more than anything is watching another video and commenting your thoughts. It helps us get feedback from you, and it helps YouTube figure out what kinds of content people enjoy, so we can make videos that help you know and follow Jesus better.